Dear friends, this might be one of the most important episodes I'll ever record about cacao. Mama Cacao needs our support to continue to uncover some of the most ancient history that has ever been found about her at a temple in Northern Peru, which is over 6,000 years old. This project to reveal this temple is currently facing challenges, and we as global lovers of cacao can help. Please listen to this episode to hear how you can be a part of making sure that this ancient knowledge literally can stay above ground. Thank you. Hi friends, welcome to Loved by Cacao. This is a home for all of us who love cacao, to share our stories, to elevate the voice of cacao through voices from all around the world. Here we will connect the threads of light that cacao is weaving between us, from heart to heart. Thank you for being here. You might like to make yourself a delicious cup of cacao to enjoy while you listen, to tune in with this sacred medicine. I am Pania, lover and facilitator of cacao, and I invite you to step in through the door to this cozy home. Come to sit on a cushion in this circle together, and may we allow ourselves to be here, to be loved by cacao. Here we are, welcome back to episode 13, a very important one where time is of the essence. This story is one that asks us to come together in our global love of cacao and truly offer reciprocity for her gifts. In this episode, ecologist Karen Gordon joins me from Peru to share the story of the ancient temple site called Huaca Montegrande. The unearthing of this temple in northern Peru began 14 years ago by a small non-profit organization who have been respectfully and mindfully uncovering it since it was discovered. It has been dated to be over 6,000 years old, and the most amazing part for us as cacao lovers is that remnants of cacao have been found inside a ceramic vessel which was buried within the temple. This is incredible information, and there's still more to be unearthed. However, this project has hit a big challenge in that its ongoing funding has fallen through, and there's no financial support from the Peruvian government. In fact, they state that if funding dries up, the whole temple will have to be covered over again, erasing 14 years of work and covering what could be incredible ongoing learning. So, the team have until the end of this month, October. We cannot let this happen, and now is our time to give back to Mama Cacao. We are being asked to give so that they can keep going. If you want to jump straight into supporting, please check the website links in the show notes, where you can donate to help keep this temple above ground. There are two different links in the show notes. One has been created by Seleno Health in New Zealand, so it's a great one for New Zealanders to donate through. And I've just seen looking at it that Seleno Health are even offering discounts on their products, their beautiful cacao and maca and other products that they have on their website if you donate certain amounts. And there's another link as well, which is more North American based. And if you're in other countries, you can take your pick between the two. So if you want to keep the most ancient cacao temple alive, please go and check those links out. And also, to hear the incredible story behind all of this, please keep listening, because Karen has been very, very generous in sharing this story. Karen Gordon is a restoration ecologist who lives in Costa Rica, and She's been working on projects in Peru for the past 10 years. Karen is an associate of ASICAMPE, who are the team working on Huaca Montegrande temple, and she is involved in safeguarding this ancient site and also the living heritage cacao tree varieties that are direct descendants of the cacao found in the temple. Her work emphasizes the protection of indigenous tradition and ecological conservation. I adore the way that Karen shares her knowledge on this story here, and also shares so much passion and love for cacao and the significance that this temple represents. This was a really beautiful, beautiful storytelling by her, and so please enjoy, and please remember to support Huaca Montegrande before the end of this month. Reach out to me if you have any questions or if you want to connect about it. Okay, here we go. Welcome, Karen. Welcome to Love by Cacao. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you so much for having me here, and sending you and all of the viewers and the listeners so much love from the heart of the Peruvian Amazon.
Yeah, you're joining us from Peru. It's amazing, and I'm like so grateful that you can. It's amazing. And I know that we have some very, very special things to talk about today, and I'm incredibly grateful that you reached out and wanted to talk about this, and I can't wait for the listeners to hear this incredible story. It's pretty special. So yeah, it feels very magical that you're zooming in from the heart of the Amazon, as you say. So before we get into the amazing story you have to share, I just wanted to drop us in briefly with Mama Cacao, because that's what's brought us together, obviously. This beautiful, beautiful plant that I know that you care about so much, and so many of us do. And so maybe we can just take a little breath for a moment and welcome her in and give our gratitude for this very, very ancient tree weaving us together, making these connections and giving us so many gifts and so much to learn as well. And knowing that the mysteries are still being uncovered, and giving gratitude for the ongoing medicine that she's bringing us. And I'm just tuning in with the fact that you're very close to the cacao trees and to the very ancient history, which we're going to hear about. And just if we can let this immensity of a gift of a plant into our hearts. Thank you, Mama Cacao, and thank you, Karen, for this moment. And here we are.
It's such a pleasure to be here with you today, and to be here in the middle of the heart of the Peruvian Amazon. And I have with me today some cacao that I brought from Jaén, which is the region in which we're going to be talking about really soon. So I have this little piece of cacao with me. And then I've also brought some cacao seeds from Costa Rica, which is where I have made my home for the last 23 years. And so, I've been reflecting today a lot while I was out there working in the field. As you know, I'm a biologist and a restoration ecologist, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. But I've been reflecting about cacao a lot today. And as a biologist, one of the things that I'm absolutely fascinated by is that this is a botanical species that's been on this planet for 10 million years. And we don't exactly quite know when the dance between the ancient cacao began with humans, but we have an idea. And that's what brings me here today. So I am so fortunate to be able to speak on behalf of ASICAMPE, which is a Peruvian not-for-profit organization. That means the Association for Scientific Research of the Peruvian Amazon. And one of the things that this not-for-profit organization did about 14 years ago, which was completely unexpected, is in their research, they uncovered an ancient temple that was underneath a garbage pile. And when I think about this, I think about Mama Cacao and how she has really just risen out of the forests. She's made her way into the hands of the hearts of people around the world. And people like you and me and so many others, we began our dance and our relationship with cacao, or usually as chocolate, right? And one of the things that I think about is how chocolate is present in our lives in celebration. It's present in our moments of grief. It's one of the gifts that's most greatly gifted in between people as a show of love and admiration, celebration, etc. And more, as you know, in the global north, there's been a lot of people really deepening their relationship with cacao through cacao ceremonies. And, you know, there's always been this mystery around chocolate and this mystery around cacao. Like, where did it actually come from? And the cacao that we consume today, and the cacao that becomes a part of our hearts and a part of our beings, began its dance with humans, we think about 6,000 years ago in the Amazon. And so cacao as a botanical species is a native tree to the Amazon. And people really weren't quite sure where chocolate came from. You know, did it start in Mexico? Was it from Ecuador? And in the end, it doesn't really matter. But like I mentioned before, something happened about 14 years ago in Peru that actually began to rewrite history, not only the history of the Amazon in general, but also the history of chocolate and cacao. And so this particular group that I'm collaborating with has archaeologists and there's anthropologists that work there. And there was a call that was made to one of the archaeologists, Quirino Oliveira, who is the director of our program, and he's the lead archaeologist in this particular study that's happening in northwestern Peru. And he was told that there were some artifacts that were found underneath this mound that was covered by garbage, and he went and he checked it out. And so they were able to receive a grant, and they were able to remove all of the garbage from the top of this mound. And then rather than using very typical archaeological techniques where you make trenches and you kind of dig down, he just had this feeling as he looked at the landscape of this place and this space to do a very widespread, very thin excavation, or really like an uncovering to see what was there. And he found something that was absolutely miraculous, made out of stones that are about this big. Mostly of them are river stones at the very top. What was uncovered was the form of a massive spirit, a form, almost like a human form that had a head, a neck, a thorax, a womb space. And the spirit had its arms outstretched and its legs outstretched. It covered a massive area with a huge spiral. And that's when Dr. Oliveira knew that what ASICAMPE had done is they had uncovered the very top of a temple. What was underneath this big hill, it was actually not a hill at all, but a temple that was underground. And so when they began excavating and just starting again, like this uncovering work, because I often talk about this project to me, which is called Huaca Montegrande, which means large mountain. What I always have felt is that this project is not an excavation project. In fact, this is a temple space, an ancient temple space that's actually arising and it's desiring to be uncovered. Otherwise, it wouldn't have shown itself because it hadn't shown itself for thousands and thousands of years. So during the very first parts of the excavation, the first layers, let's say, a meter down like this, there were pieces of pottery that were found, and there were artifacts that were found. And inside of this ancient pottery, we sent it to be carbon-14 dated. On the inside of the pottery, what was found? Ceremonial cacao. And that is just what blew the lid off of everything in terms of what had been previously known about cacao and chocolate. And so this particular dating of these particular pieces of pottery dated about 5,300 to 5,500 years old minimum. And that actually created a movement, because there are people who study, it's called they're archaeogenomics studies, which means that people study the domestication of species such as corn, such as cacao, and that was able to place the origin of domesticated cacao. Again, this domestication being this beautiful dance of relationship between a plant and humans, to the Marañón River Valley, which is in northwest Peru. And then it's not too far from the Ecuador border. And so one of the most amazing things for me about this project is that not only does it point to, number one, the absolute ancient use of cacao as a beverage, at least 5,500 years old, if not longer. And I'm going to tell you more about that in just a little bit. But it also pointed to something else. What was incredible about this is that the culture that built this temple had previously been undescribed, had previously been unknown, completely unknown. And for years and years and years and years and years, people just thought that the earliest people, the ancient people that lived in the Peruvian Amazon or in any part of the Amazon, were just simple hunter-gatherers, that they could never have, let's say, they didn't have sophisticated like a sophisticated cosmology. They didn't, do agriculture or anything like this. And one of the things that this temple is showing is that, in fact, the Peruvian Amazon had an incredibly sophisticated culture 6,000 to 8,000 years ago. The Montegrande temple is older than the Egyptian pyramids. It's older than the pyramids in Mesopotamia. It's 3,000 years older than the much more studied cultures of the Nazca people and the Inca people of Machu Picchu. And for me, it's just amazing. So as excavations, or as, let's say, the uncovering, I like to call it the study of this temple, as this temple continues to unfold and reveal itself. There have been other pieces that have been found. And recently, when I was there in July, a week after I left, they found a stone, an ancient stone, cacao. It was a cacao carving of stone that predated pottery. Which means, and this was found much deeper in the temple at probably maybe the 4 or 5 meter layer. That has not yet been dated with carbon-14 dating. The only dating that we've been able to do so far are those very top layers. So one of the things that we know is that this temple completely shared the power of plant and humans and prayer together. It's one of the earliest places, if not the earliest temple space in Peru and in the entire Amazon that's ever been found that actually shows worship and devotion to anything. And what did they have present there? It was cacao. And so for me, it touches my heart, it blows my mind. And the thing what brings me into the picture is that I'm a restoration ecologist and a biologist. And the there are farms that are nearby in the Marañón Valley, and they are stewards of ancient cacao. They're the Awahun people, some of the indigenous groups that are in the northwest part of the country, steward ancient cacao areas, as well as the mestizo farmers have been stewarding ancient cacao farms for time untold. And some of the cacao on those farms has the same exact genetic profile as the cacao that was found in the Temple Montegrande.
Mm.
And so for me, it's a miracle. And I was just there last week working with Dr. Oliveira. And one of the things I would just love to tell people as well is that this particular site is being studied by people who are so respectful. And every single day before the work begins, with tiny little brushes and little magnifying glasses and like little sifters, there's a prayer that's made. And tobacco, cacao, prayer and song are offered to the spirits of the temple to ask for permission to move forward with the study, and they do so respectfully and very intuitively. There's no technology that's being used in this project at all. There are some archaeology projects where, you know, they have radar and they use other types of technology to sort of see what's in the ground. But in this particular place, Dr. Oliveira knew that it wasn't the way. The way was to go slow. The way was to be respectful. The way was to let the spirit of the temple show the way.
Mm.
And so they've been just finding, you know, extraordinary. I mean, I could keep on talking about all these extraordinary finds that are there, but for me, what I find to be most fascinating about this project, and one of the most important things about this project for me, is that it is a restoration project. It's a restoration project that speaks to the restoration of ancient Peruvian culture. It speaks to the ecological restoration, the protection of lands that are, you know, very vulnerable, you know, here in the Amazon and even in the Northwest Amazon where Monte Grande is. It's about 700 meters, so it's considered high Amazon. There's a lot of pressure. You know, there's a lot of environmental pressure. There's a lot of cultural pressure. There's a lot of pressure right now that I was hearing from the farmers just, you know, a few days ago, how they're feeling pressured by the cacao companies that are making genetically modified cacao to cut down their ancient trees and to graft genetically modified cacao onto their trees in order to have higher yields. And these people who have been stewards for hundreds, like generations, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, you know, they're living in very simple lives, and they need ways as well to continue to survive. And the ancient cacao trees don't produce a lot of cacao, but the cacao that they produce is supreme. And so it's an interesting dance. It's an interesting story. And there's something else that's happening at Monte Grande that I feel like is really important for your listeners, or our listeners and our viewers, to know and to hear about, is that this project is one that is being administered by a small Peruvian not-for-profit organization. You know, with all of the temples and all of the great culture that's in Peru, many people believe that the Ministry of Culture is just in charge of all of it, but that's not true. The Ministry of Culture isn't. They provide this not-for-profit, ASICAMPE, permission to excavate and to study, but they don't provide any type of financial support. So for the last 14 years, ASICAMPE has been completely funded through grants and donations, etc. And one of the things that happened this summer is we knew that there was funding was going to be running out relatively soon, and we were counting on a particular grant to come through. And it got stuck in bureaucracy, and that left this temple space and its stewards, or let's say the stewards of this temple space, without funding.
Mm.
And so we're at a real crossroads here right now because we need to keep this project moving, not because we're trying to dominate anything, not because we're trying to force anything,
Mm.
but because one of the things that happens with the law in Peru is that if an excavation site or an archaeological slash anthropological study site is no longer able to continue its work and to do its work by Peruvian law, everything needs to halt and everything needs to be covered, meaning this temple space that has been so carefully and so respectfully revealed for the last 40 years has a great chance to be covered back up again.
Mm.
And so we're really reaching out to the cacao community around the world to say, wow, I don't think anybody wants to see this happen. And we need help in order to keep moving forward. And so we are asking for the cacao community around the world to see what they can do. Are people willing? Are people able to help support in a type of reciprocity offering to a place that is one of the deepest, most ancient home places to cacao? And I know there are so many amazing facilitators and so many incredible providers, really ethical providers of cacao out there who have very deep relationships with farmers all throughout the Americas and into Central America. I live in a cacao growing region as well in Costa Rica. And we just love, like, thank you so much. Thank you for your deep relationships with the people and the places where your cacao is coming from. And one of the things that I also really feel is that Montegrande, in this whole area where Montegrande sits, is like the origin point of all of the cacao, even this cacao from Costa Rica.
Yeah.
This is like the great, 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 great grandbaby.
Yeah.
There was a study that was published in March of this year in Science Reports that was authored by 24 scientists around the world, people who do archaeogenomic studies, the study of domestication and sort of like where things come from, and then how different strains have kind of made their way out and through the world. And all of the studies lead back to the Marañón culture, which is what Montegrande uncovered, revealed. Montegrande revealed this ancient culture to us, and it revealed this particular place as very likely one of the origin points of the domestication of cacao. So that's kind of where we are right now. That's the base of this story. It's absolutely fascinating. And I'm sure you may have questions, or I would really love to hear really what touches your heart too about this particular story.
Oh my goodness, so much, so much. I'm so grateful to you for sharing it with us, because I know that you're sharing the story a lot right now, and it's really like you're really in it, because when we got to have a little bit of an intro talk the other day, and you were right there near the site, and now you're in a different part of the Amazon, aren't you?
Yes, exactly. I heard the book. I was there. I was actually there. I was like, it
Mm.
was
And that felt really
evening.
special. So yeah,
Mm,
really in it right now. And yeah, it's amazing. So I mean, this is like one of the most incredible finds of history. And it's been uncovered over 14 years, and there's a possibility it could be covered again if the funding doesn't come through. And I just think I don't know, it feels huge. It feels like this is a really important moment for cacao. And
mm,
yeah, it makes me question a lot of things. I'm curious, like, if you know, I don't know if you know, but how does a site actually become completely covered like that if it's so huge? Is it just
mm.
because it's so many thousands of years of dust and earth building up, or what is it that covers it over?
That's a beautiful question. So one of the things that they have been finding in this particular region are other mounds
Okay.
that look that are covered, and they haven't been excavated, they haven't been
Wow.
revealed. And so it looks like the Marañón culture practiced temple burying themselves. The
Huh.
very likely, so one of the things I'd like to move back to is that I spoke about the spirit that was at the very top
Mm,
um, of this temple space, yes. And coming from its womb space was this huge spiral. And the spiral is not just on the top of the mound, but it circles down into and into and into the temple. And so one of the things that Dr. Oliveira and his archaeology team, they have not done yet is they have not yet excavated the center because that takes time.
mm,
And they've been moving down and down and down and down and down through the layers. And in order to be able to do that work, funding is needed. But very likely, what is at the center of that spiral is
mhm.
one of the head spiritual leaders of the Marañón culture. They have
Right.
found they've found a lot of offering sites in the temple area,
Mhm,
and they have also found other burial sites. And what's really interesting is that most of the burials that have been found there are not what are called, they're not primary burials, meaning it wasn't like people were necessarily sacrificed and laid to rest right there. That they have found what are called secondary burials, which means that other people, after having been buried elsewhere, were brought and placed in that temple space. And I asked Dr. Oliveira about that the other day.
mm,
And he said in many, many ancient cultures, let's say if there was a spiritual leader that passed, that transcended to the next dimension, that they would bring who were other spiritual leaders or other guides or medicine men or medicine women who had been revered and buried elsewhere, and they would bring them to the temple to help guide them on their way. And
wow.
so for some, they themselves buried the temple, but we haven't, again, we haven't done the carbon dating of all of the different layers because, for a very small not-for-profit organization, that requires funding as well. But
Mm,
they cut everything up to hold that
mm,
wisdom,
mm,
hold that knowledge until I believe it was ready to appear.
mm,
And it's been appearing. And not only um, has the temple really been revealing itself, we are just about to get to the very center, deepest part of the spiral right now.
mm.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, gosh.
But right, all work is stopped. Like all work is because when when that grant didn't come through, which we were 95% sure it was coming through,
Mm,
August, the organization only had funding to keep a couple of people continuing to work
mhm,
through um, through August and then through September, and
mhm.
then right now have some guards on site, that are people who are taking turns who have been a part of the project for a very long time.
Okay.
I feel very fortunate to be able to speak about this, and there are other people who have been really involved in this project as well,
Mhm,
who are great supporters of ASICAMPE. And I feel so grateful and honored to be able to speak to the global north. And there are more people who are doing that. I'm one of the only, if not the only, non-Peruvian on the team
mm,
there. And there are many, many, many people who love this place, but there are not many people in the English speaking world who know about it. And
mm,
yet it is English speaking world or in the European world as well, right? Where cacao is just spreading everywhere. And it feels like she has spread everywhere. And now it's time for all of us to listen and
mm,
all give back.
mm,
And I mean, this story is, I will never forget this moment when I was in the temple just the other day and I was walking around and seeing the temple and all of the stones every single stone that was put into place by a human heart, by
Yeah.
human
Yeah.
in a human heart that formed all of the structures that were there.
Mm.
We don't know how long it took them to build this temple. We have no idea
Mm.
because, again, we have carbon dating that goes all the way down to the bottom. By the way, we're not down to the bottom yet of the
Yeah.
temple. We still have at least 15 feet to go, right? We haven't even the bottom layers of the temple, not just the inside of the spiral. We haven't gotten all the way down yet.
Yeah.
And now as I was looking at every single stone, especially in the spirit, which is on the top, this beautiful protective spirit, every single one was like placed perfectly and sweetly and with intention.
Mm.
And I thought, wow, if every single person who hears this could match that effort, could match that intention. I think about how much do people spend for a cup of really good cacao, or if they buy a kilo of cacao from some place, or if they go to a cacao ceremony. What would it be like if the entire global cacao community could provide a global gift of gratitude to
Absolutely.
cacao origins
Yeah.
by making a donation? It's like it's that reciprocity. And so many of us have reciprocity projects. A lot of us give back to a lot of places, but
Mm.
sometimes necessary is to just make an offering, right? Just to make an offering. And it doesn't really matter how big or what we might perceive as small. We might think that, just $5 or $10 or whatever the amount is isn't going to make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
But we, as a united community, it all makes a difference.
Yeah. Well,
Mm-hmm.
what's coming up for me right now is like we can't let this be covered again, it feels like you say, like it was protected, it was covered for a long time for that protection, and it's coming out for a reason. And at a time when cacao is spreading around the world so much, so it's super interesting that those things are happening side by side. And
Mm-hmm.
we absolutely cannot let it be covered again, because we like I think that there's so much to learn here. And like you say, it changes our knowledge about cacao so much. And I'm sure there's more to learn. And the care and attention that has been given to this project already, I really feel that we need to honor that as well as honoring cacao and its history. And it does feel like she's like rising up out of the earth, saying, "Here I am." And you mentioned reciprocity, and that's a big part of working with cacao. Truly,
Mm-hmm.
it's in ceremony, there's often like, how can we give back through gratitude, or even sometimes making an offering to the earth. Some people pour a little bit of cacao on the fire or on the earth as an offering, and I know that's a conversation often in the cacao world. How can we give back? And this just feels obvious. It's like one of the ways we can give back is to make sure that this project can continue. That's what I feel anyway. And so,
This project, like I said, is so much more than an archaeological excavation.
mm,
It's the reach of ASICAMPE, the Association for Research and Investigation in the Peruvian Amazon, is really based in that northwest corner of the country. And they're working with farmers and they're making alliances with farmers. And, down the road, should this temple space continue to reveal itself, is, the dream of the director of this program, because he is in touch, obviously, and in relationship with the Awahun people,
mm,
who are, let's say, the present day ancestors of the very ancient Marañón culture.
mm,
Um, for them to be able, while their elders are still here, right, to be able to build a big, beautiful maloca, near the site, and to also have this be a place where um, the teachings and the ancient cosmology, which is still alive today. That's one of the things that like I really love people to understand, is that sometimes when people think about archaeology and they think about ancient temples, they think that these are just like piles of stones. And in fact, this place is like a portal. And not only that, even more than that, it's very much alive, because for me, again, being the biologist, when I think about the inside of that ancient pottery having remnants of ceremonial cacao, and that cacao trees that have the same genetic profile as that are still alive. For me, this temple is alive. It's ready for a teaching place. Someday it may be a pilgrimage place. I'd like people to know that it's not this is not a place that's open to the public. It's very much under the protection of the Ministry of Culture. Only through like certain permission can people go there, and organizations that have relationships with ASICAMPE, and there are some even in New Zealand that have relationships there, are able to go. But this is making me think about the story that you and I shared, I think the other day, that I loved. There's an anthropologist who is a dear friend and an incredible ally to ASICAMPE and to Huaca Montegrande. And his name is Alejandro Cerda, and he spoke about this ancient story. I believe it's from the Mayans, that there was a massive forest fire, and all of the animals were running for safety, and the jaguar was there, and urging the animals to go and to save their lives. And he saw this tiny little hummingbird, and this little hummingbird was like going over to the river and getting a little beak full of water and like dropping a gota, like dropping a drip. What are they called? Like a drip, a drop. Sorry, my Spanish and English is too much today. A drop, and then it would go back and go back. And the jaguar was like, "What are you doing?" And the bird said, "I'm doing my part." And I feel like so many of us who work with cacao in all of the ways, like I don't serve cacao in ceremonies. I work for cacao on the ground in the forest, right? But all of us who have been touched by cacao and who love cacao so deeply, like those hummingbirds, we are stewarding an ancient, ancient, ancient tree that began its dance with humans 6,000 to 8,000 years ago. A love relationship, just like corn. Humans have had a love relationship, right? Of sustenance, of honoring, of worship, of reciprocity. Just feel like so many of us who work with cacao are like hummingbirds. We do. And I just want to surround myself with herds of flocks of hummingbirds right now. And sometimes all it takes is just a little bit of a drop. And one of the things that many people have been asking about is like, how can I help? Like, how can I help? And really the way to help right now, because this is a long-term project, the way to help now is to provide some an energetic offering, which comes through the form of a financial gift. There will be other ways to help later on, but right now, what this project needs is $50,000, 50,000 US dollars, which seems like a lot, but actually, if we have a whole flock of hummingbirds, it really isn't. That's only 500 people providing an offering, a donation, a gift of gratitude of $100. 500 people for $100. And if one doesn't have $100, we can have, maybe there are 500 different cacao ceremonies that can happen around the world at this full moon that's coming up next week. And those donations can be gifted to this project. Because one of the things that is very real is that by the end of this month, if funding doesn't come through, ASICAMPE will be required to report to the Peruvian government that funding is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Then a supervisor needs to come, and then a protocol will ensue. Like they will decide, until how long does this project have
Mm.
to close, and to think about the absolute amazing work that these most beautiful people who've been working for this organization for so many years,
Mm.
these beautiful people who are professionals, and they're scientific and they're spiritual, and they make offerings when they begin their day, and they make offerings to end their workday every single day. They work barefoot.
Wow, really? Oh.
But they work barefoot in the place.
Mm. Yeah.
I can't imagine. And so that's our plea. And we have a couple of different ways for that to happen.
Mm.
I
Okay.
provided you with of a way. We have a fiscal sponsor in the United States. They have a fundraising platform for us
Mm-hmm.
that we're able to, and for people just to make an online donation, with a credit card or through PayPal or Venmo or something like that. And then there may be another way that will be available that I'll let you know about, that might be um, an easy way for folks in New Zealand and Australia. But I'll let you know about that. Right now, what we need is we need people to please spread the word, but
Mm.
not only that, one action that can be taken.
Yeah.
And the other action that can be taken is really by making an offering. And let's see how many cacao ceremony facilitators would like to join a full moon moment, right? Of week, next weekend, to
Yeah.
say who would like to do one. Some people even do online cacao ceremonies. Why
Mm.
not do that offering too? Like, why not make an offering?
Mm. Mm.
The great, 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 great grandmother
Mm.
of all of the cacao that we drink,
Mm-hmm.
to say, we're here, we're with you, thank you.
Mm. Oh.
But we need people, their voices, and we need people, thank you so much for using your heart and your voice to bring me here and to help spread this news, and to really request. What we need are people who are working with cacao, or even people who just enjoy their cup of cacao, to take personal leadership.
Mm.
And
Mm.
some people take professional leadership as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we thank everybody who would like to do that.
Well, I'm so glad that you're reaching out for the support. And, you said it could only take 500 people to offer $100. And I know for sure that there's way more than 500 people who drink cacao, thousands, there's thousands of people.
Right.
And
Right.
yeah, I think that that's such a beautiful idea for people to offer ceremonies to, bring in donations for this. And time is of the essence. I just want to point that out again. You said by the end of the month, yeah. So um, I thought maybe we could take just a moment for us and anyone listening to visualize this project continuing, to visualize how beautiful it's going to feel to know that so many of us have contributed to keeping it going, so we can keep this knowledge and wisdom coming through, and just seeing it becoming something that we can all say, like, we're connected to that grandmother of cacao, and yeah, let's keep this beautiful work going, keep these people who've been working on it for 14 years, keep them able to continue what they've started, and perhaps even some of us will be able to have a spiritual pilgrimage to this site one day because we've kept it open. So, but to make that happen, we need to contribute. So yeah, I feel very passionate about this as well, and I'll definitely be making a donation and encouraging others to do the same. So
Thank you so much. We have a website that we created in English, and it does have some Spanish translation as well. But
mhm.
we definitely made it for the English speaking community, because there are other people who are working in Spanish speaking communities. And there are little points of light. And thank you so much for being one of the points of light all the way on the other side of the world from here. I'm thinking about, if we just kind of cut through Peru, through the earth, maybe we land exactly where you Zealand, and I know there are other people in New Zealand and Australia and in that beautiful part of the world. And look where cacao has traveled.
Yeah, it's traveled all over, really.
Traveled all over. She has big medicine for everybody.
Mm,
And I'm happy to answer any other questions that you may have,
yeah.
and just thank you so much, and happy to come back on. And I would love to see, please feel free to, I can also send you some of the tags that people are working on Instagram,
Hmm.
and would really to get things moving. Like, why not have the glow, like a huge, I can't help but just picture this incredible like spiral, right? Like the spiral that comes from Monte Grande. And I'll send you our website and you'll be able to see some incredible photographs, right?
Mm.
Um, just like this spiral of support, that travels across like all latitudes, both hemispheres, to say, Mama Cacao, like, here we are.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. 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 As we continue to honor, all of the wisdom keepers who are currently alive, and like, holding down each of their places in Central America and in South America, and all of these beautiful, beautiful living stewards of living cacao forests, and who are bringing us our medicines.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. But it's a time for all of us to hold hands together.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Yeah, and honor the birthplace, right? That's what it feels like. Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
it almost feels like a baby shower in a way, a temple shower. Temple is like ready to be revealed. Like, I'm letting you know that with
Yeah,
$50,000, we're going to be able to continue our work and move
yeah,
into the temple. And like, I just know that history will continue to be revealed. And
yeah.
amazing thing. We have a lot to learn still. I have, me personally, I have no doubt that someday, if Huaca Montegrande is able to stay open and continue its work, and ASICAMPE, this beautiful not-for-profit organization, is able to be supported in all of the different ways, that this is going to be an UNESCO World Heritage Site. This will be a pilgrimage site
Mm,
someday for sure.
mm.
And I'd also just like to point out, a lot of people might say, well, talk to the chocolate companies and talk to the cacao companies. Yes, like we're also doing that. But one of the things that all of us know,
Mm.
that the first wave of support for projects like this always comes from the ground. It always comes from people who have their feet on the ground, who have their hands around the cup. It doesn't necessarily come from people from boardrooms.
Yeah.
That will come well, but that takes time, and
Mm,
we don't really have it right now. And what a beautiful thing it is to be able to show up as a human who
mm.
loves,
Yeah,
and not to wait for other people to do it, but for us to say, like, I'm going to get out there. I'm doing this.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so,
All the cacao facilitators who are going to be offering ceremony for Huaca Montegrande. I would love to see Huaca Montegrande tagged everywhere, and me, I'm Sacred Ecologist on Instagram, and I'll also provide that for you. So it
yeah,
would be incredible
beautiful.
to share around the world and just like have this wave, this amazing circle spiral of support come through.
It's happening. I'm already seeing some things happening on Instagram, so let's keep it going. And beyond Instagram. Um, and so
Thank you.
I'd just love to ask briefly if you still have time. Uh,
For sure.
yeah, I mean, um, as you said, you're an ecologist and biologist, and I also would love to ask you about the forest because it is that why you first went there? How does an ecologist become involved with an archaeological dig?
Isn't
And
that crazy?
yeah, it's awesome. I love it.
So I've been coming down. So I live in Central America, as I told you. I live in Costa Rica, and I've lived there for 23 years now. And so what brought me to Central America was
Hmm.
because and I've worked for the last 30 years in ecological restoration. So my love is reforestation and the establishment of biological corridors, and really reweaving the skin of the earth to allow for me the conversations that have been had by the trees and the waters and the butterflies and the humans and the people to continue happening. And so
Mm.
I've been working down here in Peru for about 10 years. I have the
Wow.
site where now. There is an incredible restoration project that we're working on in terms of reforestation, and we're also trying to establish a private nature reserve here as well. So,
Oh,
I'm
wow.
in the midst quite a bit of that, and private conservation is a is very helpful as well. Not we can't just wait for government to do everything, and
Mm.
so establishing. I'm part of a project here called the Reserva Rinquia, which is another Peruvian not-for-profit organization. And my heart has been here for about 10 years now. And then I made my way to northwest Peru with some friends, and a very dear friend of our friend group had a connection with Huaca Montegrande. I
Mm.
have to go there.
Mm.
And we were able to go, a group of us. And I had to actually sit on the ground and cry
Mm.
when I felt and saw the space. And Pania, for so many years, I'd been wondering about what would my service to cacao look like? Because I knew again that the ceremonial service it was not mine.
Mm.
But I do have ceremony with myself every single day with my cacao from Costa Rica. Um, my son is part Costa Rican indigenous,
Mm.
and the people that he come from are some of the people who were the ancient stewards of cacao in Costa Rica.
Oh, wow.
So I feel like it's in my blood because I carried a Costa Rican baby inside of me.
Yeah.
I feel like it's gotten so much better. And so, when I was at the temple site, I didn't hear when Dr. Oliveira was speaking with us. He didn't talk to us about the financial problems of Monte Grande at all. He talked about the the miracles of this space, which we were all obviously feeling.
Mm.
But because I've been working in not-for-profit conservation for such a long time,
Mm.
and before I left, I asked him. I said, "How are you guys doing?
Mm.
What's your operating budget a month? How are you making ends meet?" Because I know what it's like, right?
Mm.
In conservation as well, we're always doing fundraising. And that's when he told me, and he said, "Wow, it's a tough moment." And so
Mm.
we continued conversations, for months, and he really he wanted to bring me onto the team as an associate because I do have that the vision of a project that's more than an archaeology project, but in fact a large restoration project.
Mm-hmm.
And because I do feel very passionately about cacao and about the restoration of our planet and the restoration of the Amazon. And for me, for the people who love the Amazon or
Yeah.
who dream about an Amazon that is alive and brimming with life,
Mm.
pumping water, vibrant cultures. Again,
Mm.
this is one way to help. And
Yeah.
so I've laid my life down for this work for the last 30 years, and I've never really looked for projects. I feel like projects have come to me
Wow.
to help steward. And so Cacao tapped me on the shoulder and she gave me a big hug with this one. And
Mm.
it was something I couldn't not do. And I feel like it's the same for you. Like when you and I spoke, I knew that you couldn't not do either. And what we're hoping is that there's going to be a lot of hummingbirds who are out there who
Mm.
can't not go and get the little drop of water and bring it over here and drop
Yeah.
it down. That's what we're hoping for. I can see it, I
Yeah.
visualize it, and feel it, but the time is now.
I mean, there's that the remnants of the cacao, like that blows my mind. Like that it's 6,000 years old, that somebody had probably drank some cacao 6,000 years ago, and it's still in the vessel. Like, I mean, you know, I usually wash my cups, so it doesn't last. Like, how many cups are there in the world that have 6,000-year-old cacao in them? That's
Exactly.
incredible.
Totally. It was a ceremonial vessel. It was a ceremonial cacao vessel that was planted when was gifted, was made as an offering,
Mm,
probably to the temple.
yeah.
When the temple being built, there are cacao remnants, carvings, pottery, things all around.
Mm, mm,
And so what's amazing too, like I just want to bring up the thing that I love too is that Monte Grande, like this is such a pioneering place. I don't think people understand this. That Monte Grande, this temple space, is also showcasing, it's also revealing
mm,
some of the very earliest human places of worship
mm,
and
mm,
reverence.
mm,
The entire Amazon. It's not saying that people were not spiritual before, but
mm,
when people build temples and they line them up with solstices and they line them up with equinoxes, just like Monte Grande was.
mm,
This is a very sophisticated culture,
mm,
and that had a very deep connection to their environment around them, to the nature around them.
mm.
And they made chocolate.
Yeah.
And it was important enough to
Mm,
them, this deep connection to this plant,
mm,
that they placed it in a temple with other carvings and other things. So probably one of the greatest leaders of their society is there.
mm, mm.
Mhm.
Wow. I can't wait to see what more is going to be uncovered because I just can see that this has to keep going and
Mhm.
and also you're working with the cacao forests too. And
Yeah.
and you mentioned that the genetics are the same with the trees and the remnants of the cacao. And that is important because they could have been wiped out in the meantime. Is that the significance of it? Like they could have
Well,
been lost, those trees.
yeah, I mean, part of the significance is that cacao, we need to remember, is a native tree.
Hmm.
Um, So, when we do, for example, in Costa Rica, like widespread reforestation, we're not reforesting with non-native trees.
Yeah.
We the native trees, and so the cacao forests, cacao as a native tree,
Hmm.
and there are full of different varieties of cacao because we're very used to the Theobroma cacao, but
Hmm.
there are other genuses of Theobroma that are out there, like Copasu and Macumbo. And so in in working with biological corridors and making sure that they are protected, one of the things that we're actually doing is we're protecting the diversity
Hmm.
of the Amazon forest. So as we protect the ancient cacao in Peru, there are at least 14 varieties
Mm,
of it's called cacao criollo, which is purely Peruvian
hmm.
um, variety of ancient variety of cacao.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. And so, which is domesticated. So for me, working with the forests is it's a part of the restoration. It's a part of how do we allow this conversation to continue?
Mm,
This conversations that have been happening for thousands of years in a place.
mm,
The conversation with the cacao, with the birds and the waters and everything to walk in these forests. It's incredible.
yeah, it must be. It
On our
must.
website, you'll see some of some of the pictures. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I saw
that
you shared a
they're
picture.
not for, that you can just like go to, right? Because it's
Oh
all
yeah.
on private property. but but there are places where you can go, and there are groups, really ethical cacao travel groups, who do what I would call sustainable regenerative tourism,
Mm.
people who really love cacao, and some of these places are able to be visited as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you mentioned the farmers, there's the challenge of them feeling like they need to grow the hybrid varieties for, to bring in the money. Are there movements happening that you know of I mean, I know particular brands that are working with the farmers to try to encourage them to keep the original varieties going. But are you
Mm-hmm.
seeing much happening in that area of
Yeah,
support there?
definitely. Yeah, there is definitely some, and I think that one of the things that Dr. Oliveira was speaking about just the other day when we were visiting with some of the farmers was just, ASICAMPE also being an ally and helping with some projects as well. And so the idea being not that they sell all of their cacao out, to
Mm.
the outside, but what would it be like to begin to work with farmers and on small brands that they can cultivate their cacao and they can
Mm.
create their
Mm.
chocolate, they'll sell them.
Yeah.
Just as like there are some really super ethically, like deeply heartfelt cacao companies that are out there that have incredible relationships with different farmers,
Mm.
again, around Central America. I think that ASICAMPE has a view, at least for some of the farms, for those farmers to be able to create their own chocolate, and they dream about that too, down the road.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Oh.
It's an unfolding story. It's a completely unfolding story, and
Mm.
um, first line right now the of that's needed for the
Yeah.
people is support, and as things get stabilized there, then there will be able to be more support. I just keep on visualizing this ripple of support, this massive global hug
Mm.
to this northwest corner of Peru where there is so much that's happening.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
I want you to know that I'm not the only one who knows about this place. Like, there are many people around the world who love this spot.
mm.
Um, and I just feel really fortunate to be able to share,
Mm.
on behalf of this not-for-profit organization right now.
Mm.
I'm here, and thank you for your time and for
Mm.
your care. And for catalyzing your community and for catalyzing the community in New Zealand.
Mm.
Like, this is sometimes the medicines tap us on the shoulder, we turn around and she gives us a big hug and
Yeah.
she said, "You have some holy homework."
Yeah. Oh, I'm so honored to be able to tap into this, and I'm honored that you were able to share this story with us, and it all feels so connected to me. That's why I asked about the trees. It's like, if we can protect the history, I feel like somehow that's going to have a connection with helping to protect the ancient varieties too, because it shows us how important they are, and I hope we can just build this picture of support for cacao in all the ways, and starting with making sure that this project continues. So I'm really, really, really grateful that you wanted to share this with everyone. And I still have so many more questions for you. So we might have to get you back on another time, because I know that time is passing right now, but perhaps we can have an update at some point, or, and yeah, I'd love to hear more about your work with the trees another time as well. And, and this podcast is called Loved by Cacao. So as a ending question, I'd love to ask you if you'd like to share any ways that you feel loved by cacao. And
Oh, oh, I love that question. So, how do I feel loved by cacao? I feel like cacao is not only a warm hug, but she provides me with a lot of strength. She
mm,
feels like their medicine to me.
what's your,
And
sorry, it cut out a little there.
she feels like grandmother medicine to
Grandmother.
me, like
Mm.
a hug by the grandmother, but also the wisdom of the grandmother. I feel loved by Cacao and the way that she moves around my body and fortifies my bones and fills me with her minerals and helps me to be strong and able to continue forward with my path. Um,
Yeah.
even, just in the last week as I've been working down here in the deep Amazon, out in the field, I was so grateful to be able to take a shower early today and get out of my field clothes and put on a dress. I I was working with Cacao today and just feeling her in my body and just the great strength that she provides me, the great strength and how much I smile when I'm with her and when she gets to be with me. And so,
Yeah.
mhm.
So beautiful. Yeah. Ah, amazing. I'm just so touched by the work that you're doing. I think it's absolutely incredible. And the fact that you're like really there on the ground helping to protect this history and the present day trees and sharing it with all of us. And I just thank you so much and honor you for the work you're doing. And
Thank you so much. And
thank
I am like
you.
I would say like I am one of so many people. So I get to
Yeah.
those up here know that there is a temple full of people that are in the sidelines that we can't see.
Mm,
So thank you for your appreciation, and
yeah.
I'd love to appreciate all of my colleagues and all of the beautiful people around too. But it's my honor. It's my absolute honor, and I feel like I don't even really have a choice. It's like I've been hugged. I've been hugged and I've been given holy homework, and so we know what that feels like. And so
Mm,
it's a great light to be in service in this way.
mm.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, let's all contribute to this holy homework, and I'm going to put all of the details in the show notes. And yeah, and I just really encourage people to read to read the website and go and give that drop of water like the hummingbird, and let's all make sure this continues. It's important. Yeah.
Thank you so,
Mhm.
so, so very much. And if there's anything that you need from me, just let me know in terms
Mm,
of Instagram. I think you have like the Instagram tags and everything like that, but whatever is needed, we're here to help spread the news to the hummingbird flock around the world.
yeah, let's do it.
But
I'm
thank
excited. Beautiful. Well, all the best for the rest of your t time this particular trip to Peru, and let's keep in touch. And I can't wait to hear how it all goes. So,
you.
yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you. Muchísimas gracias. Yeah, lots and lots and lots of love. Thank you for opening your heart here and listening today. Please subscribe to keep getting episodes in Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. And please share this podcast with your cacao loving friends. You can follow us on Instagram at Loved by Cacao. Please take care of your heart and may you feel loved.